everyone. Hope you all are doing well. My name is Mrs. Shivangi Sinha, Assistant Professor, New Law College, Bharatiya Vidyapeeth, deemed to be University Pune, and Faculty Coordinator of Madhyasata, the ADR cell, would like to welcome you all for today's session. Dear students and viewers, it is a great pleasure for me to introduce you all to our guest, Advocate Rohit Kapoor, who is going to speak to us on the topic Power Play Between the Courts and Arbitral Tribunal, scope of Section 9 and 17 of the Arbitration and Conciliation Act of 1996. Sir is a senior advocate and arbitrator. He has also served as Additional Advocate General for Jammu and Kashmir. Sir has over 30 years of experience in arbitration, including European model of multi-tier arbitral process provided in the agreements called FIDIC, headquartered in Switzerland, and now boasts of membership from over 60 different countries. We are beyond honored to have you with us for today's session, sir. We'll start with the session now.
Yeah. See, we are talking about Section 9 and 17 of Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996. I had the opportunity when I started my profession. I started with arbitration, luckily, and then it was the Act of 1940 when we did some arbitration, and some matters are still pending because the awards were challenged, and those awards are still very few. Then with the passage of time, we have seen that because of the globalization and the international commercial activities, in 1996, this of Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996 came into. So a little background, and in fact, when we talk of arbitration, the evidence, the first evidence of an outline plan dates back early 14th century, somewhere in 1306. And in India, when we talk of a brief, I'll just give the background in less than a minute. In India, it was known as, in the pre-British period, you must have heard the Panch and the Panchayat. There used to be five nominated people of a village who will decide various differences and disputes between the village. And then before the pre-1857, as far as the law is concerned, there was regulations of 1772, which involved settlement of cases relating to the accounts through the arbitration. And then in 1781, Sir Elijah Impey's regulation, a judge to recommend so far as possible he can, without compulsion, prevail upon parties to submit to arbitration and of a person mutually agreed between the parties. Then with the passage of time, the other regulation, Banaras regulations, which are known as of 1793, then those were seeded by regulations of 1893. Then Bengal regulation of 1822 gave powers to the revenue officers to refer rent and revenue disputes to the arbitration. Then came the Bombay regulations of 1832, which enabled European officers to avail themselves of Indian gentlemen, as they say, in the trial of civil suits. This regulation of 1832 empowered settlement of officers to refer disputes to arbitrators. Then the position comes after 1857 period. The Legislative Council of India came into existence in 1834, a first enactment to regulate procedure of civil courts, which was passed in 1859. Which contained a provision. There was a section 132 of the procedure of civil court, which authorized arbitration without intervention of court even if we see this Code of Civil Procedure, if you have read it, I think you must have read it by this time. It has all through, even before amendment of the Code of Civil Procedure, it continues to have a provision of arbitration, independent of the arbitration under the Arbitration Act. During the pendency of the suit, if the parties could agree for mutual, this arbitration, the court could refer, and still it is very much there. Even if a trial is going on in a normal civil court, in a conventional litigation, the parties can still agree for a arbitration. Then, as the time went by, after a number of amendments and repeals, the Act of 1940 came to be passed, and it remained in force till 1996, when this new act came into force, which we are talking of Section 9 and 17 now. And I think we should know, prior to promulgation of 1996 Act, the law on arbitration in India was substantially contained in 3 enactments. There was Arbitration Act of 1940, the Arbitration Protocol and Convention Act of 1937, and the Foreign Awards Recognition and Enforcement Act 1961. Now, there was UN CITRAL model law and the rules which were intended to deal with the international commercial arbitration, to deal with the, as I started earlier, as we know it also, that with the globalization, we wanted to have all the nations wanted, all the business community wanted to have a standard this set of dispute resolution system in their respective countries. So we adopted it. As now the 1996 Act, though it is based on UN CITRAL model, international model, but we have our own provisions which deal with the domestic arbitration, and those are by and large, you can say, akin with UN CITRAL model code. Now, as far as section, you're coming on the interim. The topic is that there appears to be some judicial overreach of section 9 and 17, which deal with the grant of interim relief. First of all, I may point out that even in 1940 Act, there was a power vested only in the courts for the grant of the interim relief. There was section 18 and there was section 41A, and there is a schedule 2 which was attached to section 41, and under section 41 and the schedule 2, the interim relief, if you may not be, I don't know whether you've read it or not, because it is in a repealed act, may not be in your syllabus now. The preservation, interim custody or sale of any goods which are subject matter of the reference, then securing the amount in difference in the reference, then the detention, preservation or inspection of any property thing, then interim injunctions or appointment of receiver, then appointment of guardian for a minor or a person of unsound mind for the purpose of arbitration proceeding. Now, what I'm trying to say, these interim measures were contained now which are part of section 9. Were earlier there also in section 41, but the difference was the power vested in the court only. With the coming of 1996 Act, the intention of the legislature was to vest the maximum authority to an arbitrator, which were earlier with the court. And when we see section 9, there are various types of interim orders which can be passed by the court only, and there are three stages at which the orders can be passed. The first stage is in section 9. The first stage is that before the arbitration proceedings begin. That's one part. That's very important. That is the significant difference between section 9 and section 17. Because in section 17, the interim order can be passed by the arbitral tribunal once it is constituted. But section 9, even the interim orders can be passed even before the arbitral tribunal is constituted, or the and there is any formal steps towards the appointment of the arbitrator or the arbitral tribunal. Now the second stage is when the arbitration proceedings are in progress. We are before the arbitral tribunal, but this is the similar. A person has a choice to avail a remedy for interim relief if so required, if the circumstances of the case so permit, whether to avail to approach the honorable court under section 9 or approach the arbitral tribunal under section 17. Another stage is under section 9, it is before the enforcement of the award. Now this question comes where the question of overreach came. After there is an amendment, there is a very significant amendment which has been carried out in 2015, which is very significant, and which says the court will grant you the interim relief, or a party can approach a court of law under section 9 when there is no other efficacious remedy available. This is very important. Please bear in mind, I would like to emphasize the word efficacious remedy. So, I'm saying so in the context of the topic which you say that which is I don't say that you say that, which is often taken to be a kind of a judicial overreach. As far as efficacious remedy is concerned, there are situations when we are before arbitration tribunal. Let us assume both the parties are appearing and the arbitration proceedings are going on. There arises a situation where one of the parties feel that he requires some interim protection, interim injunction, or some interim measures to protect the rights so that the subject matter of the arbitration proceedings is not frustrated. There were certain practical difficulties noticed. For example, the arbitral tribunal comprises of 3 persons or 1 person, one sole arbitrator. There arose a situation. One of the arbitrator recused himself. He says for such reasons, for personal reasons or for whatever it is not possible for me to continue and to hold the proceedings as the arbitrator. Am I audible? Are we online?
Yes, sir, you are.
Okay.
You're audible.
Yeah. So there arose an actual situation, and I would like you to know a judgment of Delhi High Court where this situation actually arose. This you can note one judgment of Delhi High Court. The title of this case was Express Private Limited versus National Highway Authority. This was decided on 25th of November 2019. There was a situation when one of the arbitrators recused himself. The question arose, the party goes to, yes, definitely. You can't have a complete catalog of the of the situations uh, where what is efficacious and what is where party has the efficacious remedy or not. But in this case, because of the situation that the arbitrator had recused himself, so what a person can do, a person, if a person has a right, he must have a remedy as well. If there is a right, if there is a threatened violation, or there is an actual violation, and he must have a remedy. So this the amendment in such situation helps a person to approach the court of law and apply for the interim measures. Some of the interim measures are mentioned in the section 9, which are, I would say, are very illustrative, as is evident from the language of the section 9. If you have, I'll just read the relevant part to demonstrate that this is only illustrative. These are not exhaustive. It's very important. It says, such other interim measures of protection as may appear to the court to be just and convenient. So there can't be a straitjacket definition of what is efficacious and where the court can interfere under section 9. Another situation arose. I will again suggest you to note down another judgment of Kerala High Court. The title of the case is M. Ashraf. If you want, if you're not able to hear me, I can repeat if you want. This is M. Ashraf versus Kareem. This was decided on 22nd of November 2018. Here also the situation arose where the arbitrator for some reasons was not readily available, because we are having ad hoc arbitration, because the arbitration, if you have you must be knowing that the arbitral tribunal is constituted and of a sole arbitrator or the three arbitrators. They decide to meet at a particular place on a fixed day, and at times there is a gap of 30 days, 40 days, 15 days, whatever the time date is fixed. During this intervening period, a situation arises. A person feels that he requires some urgent interim measure. Now we have emergency arbitration, you must have heard. Now what to do? That will not leave, that should not leave a person remediless. Because if a person is rendered remediless and if his right is threatened, infringement of his threatened, that will be an unfortunate situation. To overcome that situation, this section 17, this amendment has been carried out, and this question arose in this the judgment I am citing, Kerala High Court. These are two situations, but as I said earlier, there can be many situations like this, and more than this rather, which probably one cannot visualize, where a person is not having an efficacious remedy, but he needs some interim protection. And please remember, even there are many statutes, particularly in taxation, where there are forums available for the adjudication of rights of the parties. And at times, people straight away approach the Honorable High Court under Article 226. They file a petition, writ petition. You must be knowing that alternate remedy, that's one. Then if a person is having an alternate remedy, fine enough. But that alternate remedy has to be efficacious also. Now, like section 9 and 17, a person is having a remedy, alternate remedy, once the people are appearing, the parties are appearing before the arbitral tribunal. The remedy is there, but it ceases to be efficacious, like the two situations I cited through the case law I just referred. If your arbitrator is not available, if he has recused himself, so that alternate remedy ceases to be efficacious right. So therefore, a definite right accrues to the person, and he can go to the civil court as a matter of right, saying that, sir, definitely I have an alternative remedy, but that does not remain an efficacious remedy, so kindly protect me. Please note down this judgment. This is a judgment arising again delivered by Delhi High Court. The title of the case is Shri Krishan, SRI, Krishan versus Anand. This was delivered on 18th of August 2009 by Honorable Justice Englaw. Here a very interesting situation arose. A party had approached the court under section 9. The application for the grant of interim relief was entertained. The process was issued by the civil court. Then also he moves the arbitral tribunal under section 17 for the grant of the same relief. At times, he may be, the the courts highly deprecate this practice of the forum hunting. But probably he could not get the desired relief from under section 9 for which he approached the court. Then after seeing that it may not be possible, then he rushes back, takes a U-turn and goes to under section 17. The Delhi High Court says, no, you can't do that. You elected to pursue a remedy under section 9. Now you cannot revert back and seek a remedy under section 17. So he filed an appeal, and the court finally held, relying upon a judgment of the Honorable Supreme Court of India, that is Ambelal, this is AMBALAL, Sarabhai, SARABHAI, Enterprises versus Amrit Lal and Co. This is reported in 2001, volume 8, SCC, page 397. And it was held, I'll just read the extract for your knowledge. It held that two separate proceedings for the same relief ought not to be entertained, and the party must be asked to elect. In the present case, the petitioner had already elected and had sought same interim relief, now sought from this court, from arbitral tribunal, and was successful in obtaining the same. The petitioner is not entitled to apply to the court for the same relief. These are the two situations. So I would say that both section 9 and section 17, section 9 particularly after the amendment has been carried out in 2015, operate in two different situations. So I as such do not see any conflict or any tussle or any judicial overreach as such. Yes, of course, I would say the judicial, you can say some judicial dominance, despite the fact that the parties they have the choice, rather they enjoy the autonomy to choose a person of their choice, the procedure to be adopted. and of course the substantial law also, which they want to, by which they would like to be governed, substantive law which like to be governed. But there is, I see the judicial dominance is there. Now I would like that, keeping in view the time schedule and the time this allotted to me, I would like to have some questions and or any doubt which you may have in your mind, or any clarification which you want to have it from me. Thank you.
Yes, sir. The first question that we have is, can you sir, please explain the few major distinctions between court and the arbitral tribunal?
Just a minute. Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yes, sir. The first question,
Yes, please.
is it audible, sir? Yes,
Yeah,
sir. The first question is,
just a minute. Yeah, please proceed.
yes, sir. The first question is, can you please explain the few distinctions between the court and the arbitral tribunal? Few major distinctions.
Major distinction between the court.
The court and the arbitral tribunal.
Court, both, I would say, are the forums to adjudicate upon the civil disputes. The major difference I see between the court, the distinction between I see, in court you don't have the autonomy as such to choose a judge of your choice. And at the same time, and in the arbitration, the parties, both the parties, or all the parties, they enjoy the autonomy to choose a person who can adjudicate upon their the disputes or a difference. This is the major difference. The second difference I see is the procedure. The court is governed, the civil court, the conventional civil dispute, the civil trial is governed by the adjective law, that is the Code of Civil Procedure, the Evidence Act. These are the procedural laws. Whereas in arbitration, these procedural laws as such do not, now as a matter of course, do not apply. Rather, and of course I would like to add here, the principles of these laws do apply, and the parties can agree upon a procedure, how to proceed. At times, to say the difference is that the parties are free to adopt a procedure to govern the arbitration proceedings. And third major difference I see in the arbitration and this court is I would say a time factor. It's a very important.
Thank you for answering, sir. We move on to the next question.
Please.
So the next question would be, is there a power tussle between both the parties, both the bodies?
Well, as I said earlier, if you're referring to section 9 and 17, or you're talking of civil courts and arbitration, could you please
Sir, courts and arbitration.
Yeah, courts and arbitration, there is no tussle. There is absolutely no tussle. The areas are very well defined. Both the forums, move in a well defined. I would say the paths, but
why do both the court under section 9 and the arbitrator under section 17 have the power to pass interim orders during an arbitration?
As I told you, your question is the situations are mentioned for the grant of interim relief in section 9 and 17, which I just referred to. The question now is
Yes.
why. So the why is now defined.
Yes.
The it's not a choice. It's not a choice. It's not a question of why. It's a question of whether if a person has a efficacious remedy, then during the pendency of the arbitration proceedings, he cannot approach a civil court. He has to approach the arbitral tribunal only.
Thank you, sir. Sir, the next question could be, when can relief under Section 19 of the Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996 be claimed?
Section 19.
The Section 9, sorry. Pardon. Section 9.
As I told you, there are many situations, many situations. Even perhaps the legislature has not been able to put, in a straitjacket. These are only illustrative. When there are certain amount, there are certain money which is a matter of dispute between the parties. A person doesn't take it away from the bank. A person requires some kind of injunction that till the dispute is decided, this money should not be dispersed to anyone, or it should not be put to use by any person. Of any property thing which is subject matter of the dispute in arbitration, or as to which any question may arise therein, and authorizing for any of the aforesaid purpose any person to enter upon land, building in the possession, like I gave you the example, authorizing samples to be taken, observation to be made, experiment to be tried, which may be, there can be hundreds of situations. And that is why then again then there is another situation which the law has specifically mentioned: interim injunction or the appointment of a receiver. Suppose there is one property, the property there, and the property is a subject matter of dispute between the parties. That property has, suppose, 20 rooms in the building, or the 20 offices. That property is fetching rent. That property has been given on rent. Number one. Number two, there is a condition between the tenants and the owners of the property that after 1 year or 2 years, what the maintenance of the building shall be will be the responsibility and the obligation of the owner of the property. But in case of dispute, none of the parties is ready, because he says, why I should spend? I don't know whether I'm going to have it or not. So what the arbitral tribunal can do, they can appoint a receiver. They can appoint person A. Okay, he is to receive the rent. Number one. Number two, he is to there may be other expenses which are to be taken care of, like you are living in society's buildings. There are many expenses which a building incurs. There is a water, there is electricity, there is a watch ward, there are many other security. So meanwhile, the arbitration proceedings are pending. So the person A who has been appointed as the receiver, the rent will go, he will open an account in his name, and the rent will go to his in his account, and he will give the salaries, or he will incur the expenditure on behalf of the owner of the property, and he will furnish the details. That situation is there, and that situation it's very normal that situation arises. And then legislature, knowing that it is not possible to cover all the situation where as you ask, which are the situations where the interim relief can be granted or where a person can. That is why the legislature says such other interim measure of protection as may appear just and convenient. That is the that is the that is the that is the catch of the, you can say, as may be convenient, and the court shall have the same power for making orders as it has for the purpose and in relation to any proceedings before it. Any proceedings, like it can grant any interim measure which it would have been granted had it been a normal civil suit involving X, Y, Z dispute. So, we can always give a some illustrations, but if you say that it is all is possible, all may not be possible. It will all depend upon what is the dispute and what is the subject matter of the dispute and how it is being threatened. So in that case, these are only illustrative. There can be many more situations which are not covered, which are, however, the court has been vested with the power for making the order for the purpose or relation in with respect to the subject matter of the dispute.
Thank you, sir, for answering this question in such a comprehensive way. And the next question is, why is it considered that latency in litigation is the ultimate cause in the popularity of arbitration?
See, Asha, I I would say latency is a major factor. There were, civil system, because if there is some business dispute, the parties to the to resolve the differences and disputes cannot are not expected to wait for decades together. There are multinationals, they invest money. At times, when people are doing business, sometimes sometimes the differences, every difference is not a dispute, and the differences do arise. And the first effort is always for the conciliation, which power is always vested. As I told you, it's always vested. It continues to be vested with the civil court also. But because of the procedures, you can say, because of the courts are extremely overburdened, extremely heavily burdened. It is very difficult because the procedures are very lengthy. Recording of the evidence, is a long drawn process. Then there has to be examination in chief. Now the legislature, to facilitate, has done it. Okay, you file the affidavit so that time is not wasted in that process. Then the cross examination, which at times goes for days together. But as far as the arbitration is concerned, I would say essentially it was adopted keeping in view the speedy disposal. As far as the cost element is concerned, many may not agree, but I see arbitration is quite an expensive remedy. It's not compared to civil courts, but if you take into consideration the time factor, then of course not. If you can't numerically, in monetary terms, if you think overall, it is the speed. We trust that the arbitration we will be able to resolve the differences or the disputes in a speedy manner. But however, arbitral tribunal, I would like to add here, is very important, and I will not without mincing any words. Arbitral tribunal, definitely the timelines are there. 1 year, extendable by 6 months. They may be able to do it in 18 months' time. But again, the question comes when the government is a party to the dispute. In major arbitrations, in many arbitrations, I would say the government is a party. They go in under section 34, that is the application challenging the award. Then there is a 37, then there is the appeal, then there is of course the Supreme Court. you know, that these remedies of course are there, but these have become a little, I would say, overall, when we see, a time consuming thing. But as far as the arbitral tribunal is concerned, I definitely find, whether I was appearing for the government, whether I'm appearing for the the person who is raising the claims, I would say they are deciding, they are able to decide the things expeditiously, maybe because they have uh, plenty of time at their disposal. They can sit for a day or even more than a day, and they can have the sittings, uh, 1, 2, 3 sittings continuously. They can have in a fortnight, they can have in a weekly, they can have it on, of course they can have on a continuous basis also, which is not possible in a civil court. It depends upon the dispute. So I would say it is the speedy remedy which is predominant factor, while we say that it is becoming popular. It is definitely becoming.
Thank you so much for the impressive answer, sir. The next question would be, so the remedy under Section 9 of India's Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996, is it available post-award to the losing party?
Yes, why not? Why not? The Section 9 says, if you will read, if you will read, again I will come to that situation. Subject matter of a dispute before the arbitration was a building. The arbitration tribunal decides that, okay, the building decides to party B and not A, or it belongs to party A, or not the person, but the party B. The losing party prefers to have a remedy under Section 34. They want to file an application. I'm again using the word application because many times I've seen it is being used, and it's not an appeal. This word uses application. I would slightly deviating, but it just struck in my mind to, since we are dealing with it, there is a difference between application and appeal. Section 34, when the award is made, it talks of application under Section 34, whereas Section 37, it speaks of appeal. Before we proceed further, can I ask you what is the difference between application and appeal? Okay, I'll address to this. Application is, you can say, it's of the original nature where you can lead evidence, but an appeal, it is not possible. As far as the section this 34 is concerned, when you challenge the award, you have an opportunity, you have a choice to lead evidence, which is not available to you under section in an appeal. The scope of appeal is again goes very limited. Although Section 34 has curtailed the challenge to the award to drastically, which was used to be 1940. For everything used to be challenged. Now it has been curtailed. Now coming to your question, this Section 9, could you please repeat the question? Maybe I've just missed it.
Sir, is the remedy in the Arbitration and Conciliation Act can be awarded to the party post-award after losing?
Yes, of course. And please read Section 9. It says, a party before or during arbitral proceedings or at any time after making of the arbitral award, but before it is enforced. So the legislature uses the word a party. It can be a winning party, it can be a losing party. I think the legislature makes your gives itself the language of the section 9. The beginning, the second word itself is an answer to your question. It says a party. It doesn't say that a losing or a winning party. A party means a party to the agreement, which contains the arbitration clause. Because a party is referable to a party to the agreement only. It can't be that anybody can go and seek interim order. A party has to, if a person goes to this under section 9, he has to show to the court that there is an arbitration agreement between us and I'm a party to this. So it's not a question of winning or losing. It's any party can approach.
Thank you, sir. And sir, the next question is there any correlation between Section 9 of Arbitration and Conciliation Act and Article 9 of Municipal Model of Law?
Except for the language, there is no difference. As far as the substance is concerned, essence is concerned, there is no difference. Both the parties, both the provisions, that is Article 9 there, and there is we call it as Section 9. The language is different, but in a sense, under both the provisions, it speaks of a right of a person to seek the interim measures.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. The next question. Whether Section 9 of the Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996, the court has jurisdiction to pass interim orders even before arbitral proceedings commence and before an arbitrator is appointed?
Yes, of course. That situation is when you read Section 9. I'll just refer to that because Section 9 says a party before, during, a party may, before. There are three situations. You are talking of situation 1, and the situation you are talking of situation first. That is, a party may, before arbitral proceedings, he can approach. The answer to your question is very clear from the this provision of Section 9 itself.
Thank you, sir. And sir, now the last question for the day is, what is the applicability of Section 9 to the international commercial arbitration having a foreign seat and governed by a foreign law?
Well, your question, I'm sure that the question, I really appreciate that you have updated knowledge of the subject of arbitration, because the question you are asking has been answered very, very recently on 20th of April 2021 by the Supreme Court. I really appreciate that you had this question in your mind, and fortunately I too had the occasion to go through this judgment, which is delivered. This is please note down the title. This is PASL Wind Solutions Private Limited versus GE Conversion India Private Limited. The author of the judgment is Justice, this is a 3-judge judgment. This is authored by Justice Nariman. To answer your this question, I think I have really available the relevant paragraph. This says this will answer your question regarding the grant of this interim relief under Section 9 when the seat of arbitration is outside India? The answer, I'll just read the relevant, the extract of this part to your answer as the answer to your question. It says, as a matter of fact, reasons for the insertion of the provision of Section 2 within bracket 2 of the Arbitration Conciliation Act 2015 was because of the judgment passed in such and such case had muddled the water by holding Section 9 would apply to arbitration which take place outside India without any express provision to that effect. The judgment in such a case, earlier case they are referring, has been expressly overruled by 5-judge judgment. Again they are referring. So now the answer to your this is the parties, the remedy under Section 9 is available. The remedy of this interim relief under Section 9 is available in the situation you are referring when parties have chosen a foreign arbitral seat. Prior to this judgment, there were some conflicting judgments of various high courts, but as I said earlier, it's very recent. Now the Supreme Court has settled the law. So this is the answer, I think, to your question, that the Section 9 remedies available.
Thank you, sir, for covering all the aspects so comprehensively, and thank you for being a part of Madhyastata.
I hope that you have noted down the case law, and in case you have not been able to, I can always send across to you. And because once you are reading a provision of law, once you're entering into discussion, and if you come across some judgment, not all, at least a few of them, I think you must read, because that will be something you times to come. I really appreciate that the questions which have come from your side as a student. I really appreciate, and it makes me really think that you have worked well on the subject. And once you have worked well on the subject, I am sure that you are having the knowledge and of the law of arbitration. And since as you suggested, and I agree, it is becoming popular, and having knowledge and updated knowledge, once you speak of, the foreign seat arbitration in the Section 9 is a good instance. It really, is really appreciable that the students of your college are updated, and I can only wish and I hope that you remain updated, and you do well, and you go in for this field, and you enjoy this field and the connected provisions of law. Of course, we with this the arbitration, because the law of arbitration, though it's a unilateral or model law, but every country has to adopt according to its own conditions. Like US, in US, the autonomy is there, like we have the autonomy, but I don't see that the judicial dominance, as I would say that in India is there. It is not there. In Germany also, the dominance, the challenge is the challenge to the arbitrators. The autonomy is there. In France, I think that the same is it is not that much as the Indian courts have. And with this, I only say that thank you so much, having associated for inviting me, and having an interactive session. And for any clarification and anything, I'm always open to you. Students are most welcome at any time. Thank you so much.
Respected Sir, I, on behalf of Bharatiya Vidyapeeth deemed to be University and Madhyasata, the ADR cell of New Law College, extend a hearty vote of thanks for gracing today's session and for being a part of our initiative. A big thank you, sir, for sharing with us your knowledge, experience, and expertise in the field of ADR and providing your valuable insights on the topic. I'm sure that the viewers have taken a note of the same and will be greatly benefited from it. Further, I would like to take this opportunity to place on record and special thanks to our Dean and Principal in charge, Dr. Ujjwala Bindale, for providing her constant support and guidance at each and every point. And a sincere thanks to the management of Bharatiya Vidyapeeth deemed to be University New Law College for their support throughout. With this, we come to our end of today's incredible session. Thank you once again.